I was excited for the new mainline Mario game, not because it's the new mainline Mario game, but because it's a new sandbox Mario game. Back when Super Mario 64 introduced sandbox 3D gameplay to the series, I loved it. So when Mario Odyssey, the new sandbox Mario game, came out, I was more than a little excited. Now that I have spent a lot of time in the game, here is my review of Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. The typical plotline setup for Mario is here. Bowser kidnaps Princess Peach, this time with a little twist of wanting to force her to marry him. And after Mario gets pummeled and his iconic cap destroyed, he falls into the Cap Kingdom, where magic sentient hats find him, and one of them, named Cappy, decides to help him out, becoming his new Cap as they both set off on a journey to take down Bowser and recover the princess. Now this is, typical Mario stuff. Bowser kidnaps the princess, Mario goes off to save her. We've got a few little added in twists with Cappy and the Cap Kingdom, but it's pretty standard for a Mario game and it's a pretty decent setup. As I said in the intro, Mario Odyssey is a 3D sandbox-style platforming game. Now, just to be clear, because some people don't seem to understand this, sandbox and open world are not the same thing. This is not Mario Breath of the Wild. It is a sandbox environment, so the environments are more the size they were in Super Mario 64 or Super Mario Sunshine. Now, with the 3D sandbox environment, you've got your typical 3D Mario moves, your triple jump, jumping, long jumps, platforming, climbing up platforms, but the biggest parts of Odyssey are the new features. The biggest new feature is Cappy himself. Back in Mario 64, if you found an enemy, you punched them or jumped on them to kill them. In Super Mario Odyssey, Cappy can capture enemies, which lets you take control of their bodies and play as those enemies. You find a Goomba that can walk on slick ice. Instead of stomping him to death, you take control of him, cross the ice, and then let him go. It's really an interesting feature because so many iconic Mario enemies you can now play as. Now, the other main addition here is 2D sections. In a lot of areas you'll find these pixelated green pipes you can go into, and on the sides of all of the 3D environments you will have a 2D side-scrolling retro Mario platformer to navigate to get to the next area of the level. And it's really neat because it melds 2D with 3D, and a lot of times you'll even see this flat 2D plane wrapping around buildings or towers. Now, aside from the new features, we have a similar situation that we had in Mario 64. In Mario 64, you were collecting Power Stars to unlock new worlds and take down Bowser to rescue Princess Peach. In Mario Odyssey, you are collecting Power Moons, which fuel your ship, which lets you access later worlds on your quest to track down Bowser. You can collect these moons by doing pretty much anything. Exploration, finding and fighting story-based boss fights, doing side quests to help out the local species. Now, the game does have a lot of moons to collect. The grand max total is 999. The moons are also the biggest flaw. Mario Odyssey is definitely the easiest and simplest Mario game I've ever played. When you're going through the game, you will very rarely find sections that give even the slightest amount of challenge outside of some boss fights. Some of the moons are not hidden at all. They're just right there in plain sight on the main path. It almost feels like the game is just giving them to you. Sure, some of them are difficult to find, but for every difficult one to find, there's probably 10 that aren't difficult to find. It just feels like you progress too fast, and it feels like it's just too easy, even for a Mario game. Let's also talk about length because of how quickly that progress goes. If you ask around the online communities, how long is Mario Odyssey? You will get all kinds of answers. Oh, it's 20 hours long. Oh, it has more than 60 hours of content. If you want to play through the story and just do story stuff, don't go off and do optional stuff, don't go and do 100% completion before moving on to the next world, 20 hours is not going to happen. If you want to do just the story, move on to the next world as soon as you have enough power moons to access it, you should be able to complete the story in about 7 or 8 hours. Now, if you want to do more than just story, the post-game content is where the game really opens up and where those 60-hour claims are coming from. Once you beat the story mode, all of the power moons that you can collect easily double, plus you've got 3 unlockable post-game worlds, the first of which has over 100 moons by itself. In other words, there's a ton to do in the game if you want to be a completionist. Now, let's talk about presentation. Visually, the game looks wonderful. Whether you're in console mode or handheld mode, the visuals just have so much depth, so much detail. While there will be a few jagged edges here and there in handheld mode, if you've got it in TV mode, it looks pretty much flawless. And the performance stays that way as well. You're getting 60 FPS gameplay, TV mode, tabletop mode, or handheld mode. You're really getting a great optimized experience, as you would expect from a Mario title. Now let's talk about battery life, one of the biggest concerns I had for this game. Due to the graphical quality, the sandbox environments, I was expecting this to be very low, and it is very low. Here are my battery times from 100% to 0%. With maximum brightness with the Wi-Fi on, you're going to get 2 hours and 34 minutes. Max brightness with the Wi-Fi off, 2 hours and 38 minutes. Lowest brightness with the Wi-Fi on, 3 hours and 5 minutes. And lowest brightness with the Wi-Fi off, 3 hours and 18 minutes. If you've been keeping up with the Nintendo Switch battery life chart I have on my website, this is extremely similar to the range of the battery life of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. In fact, the max brightness with the Wi-Fi on setting is actually a few minutes shorter than Breath of the Wild. Now, in conclusion, Super Mario Odyssey is a very colorful adventure with lots of collectibles and a lot of nostalgia for fans of the previous sandbox Mario titles. Although I feel the game is a little bit too easy with the Power Moon placement, it's still a fun platformer that completionists will get dozens upon dozens of hours out of. Reviews to Go rates Super Mario Odyssey a 9.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below or head to the website at www.reviewstogo.com.